Well, we're here at the farm of Jeff Endres, who's been kind enough to spend some time visiting with us, and we don't have a real strong agenda today other than to hear about his farm and the enterprise and the land and that sort of thing. So thanks so much, Jeff, for joining us.
We formed an LLC back in 1997, expanded from 150 cows. Now we're pushing close to that 500 cow range, with the next generation starting to work their way into the farm operation. Steve has a son that's interested in working on the farm. I have a daughter that's interested in working on the farm.
Wow.
I can relate to what they're going through at this period of time. I had to make that decision at one point in my life, and bottom line came to me at that time is people got to eat. So we're really in the food business. You know, we're farming for a reason, and that's to feed people. Our farm here would be, with our kids taking over, would be like the 5th generation. So my great grandfather bought the farm that we are on today, and the land anyhow, and then my grandfather actually built the farmstead on this 125 acres. Wow. In the early 1900s.
Were they wheat farmers, or did they come into dairy? Or
they always had livestock.
They always had livestock?
Yeah. I suppose 15, 20 cows at that time.
Uh-huh. So you grew up here?
Right here, born here. I've been living in the house here on the farm for 55 years.
Yeah. No desire to leave?
My wife's trying to get me to leave.
Where does she want to go?
Just move next door to the next house.
Not to Florida, or
not to Florida.
Arizona.
No, not yet. So
you must feel pretty connected to the land.
Absolutely. The land has done us well. It's raised multi-generations of families. You know.
And now your my claiming she's interested.
She's interested and has her own cows within our herd. And,
she does. Oh.
And nephew's working his way in as well. So
that's not your daughter there.
Yep.
Is it?
That is.
Oh.
Obviously, the talk of the 70s and 80s is farmers had to get more efficient. We've become very efficient in our facilities and in our cropping. Yields have continued to get better.
I'm curious, when you say the talk in the 70s and 80s was that farmers needed to get more efficient, what do you think that stemmed from? Where did that conversation emerge
We were spending
from?
a lot of time doing manual labor that wasn't yielding a lot of revenue. So that's what kind of led us down the expansion of the dairy industry in the state of Wisconsin, and the herds growing, taking cows out of your conventional stanchion barn, which were labor intense, and putting them in loose housing or free stalls, and milking them with a milking parlor where the cows came to you. Fed them, instead of feeding them by hand, you fed them mechanically with a TMR mixer.
Yeah.
And so that's in production. When I started farming, we were probably 17,000 pound herd average. Now we're over 30. We've darn near doubled our herd average. But with all the efficiencies that we have built into agriculture, we still struggle with profitability. So we need to adapt and adopt. A lot of times, and what I'm seeing in the trend, is the public is coming to agriculture for the answers to some of their own problems.
So you see a future where you're getting paid, I know you're getting paid for methane production right now.
Yeah.
You're getting paid to store carbon, you're getting paid to reduce nitrous oxide emissions, you're getting paid to clean the water, et cetera. We talk about payments for ecosystem services.
Ecosystem services I think are going to be it's something we're working on with our farmer-led organization.
Yeah.
And I really think that if this is what people want, if this is what truly people want, then they need to pay for it. And
Society needs to pay for it.
Society needs to pay for it.
So let me ask you maybe a provocative question. It's something I think about a lot. If society, this is a big abstract question, but if society asks you and pays you for lots of ecosystem services, and part of that equation is, but it means you have to produce less. How does that sit with you as a farmer? I know, I get the sense that it's sort of anathema to ask a farmer to produce less. And I don't mean you in particular
I think that's a
specifically,
tough
but
sell.
That's a tough sell.
I think it's a tough sell because farmers are used to striving. We are in our mindset, right or wrong, is to produce more on less.
Yeah. So do you feel a continued push to get bigger? I know that one of the big questions in agriculture in our state right now is like, how much consolidation can we undergo and still have a family farming sort of landscape?
I think there's very few farmers out there that are wanting to be the biggest. I think farmers will continue to get bigger because there's probably going to be still going to be less. Numbers are going to go down.
Fewer farms.
Fewer farmers. Farms are going to be there, but the farmers ain't going to be
Right.
there. So I think they will continue to grow.
The numbers are pretty staggering. I mean, there's like fewer than 7,000 dairy farms in the state now. When I got here in 2003, there were 16,000, and 15 years before that, there were 32,000 and 160,000 at the peak.
If we wouldn't have changed when we did, we probably wouldn't be here.
And what was that change?
Going to the loose housing, the freestall barns, more cows per person.
In the context of what we've been talking about, what do you think about grazing and the role of perennial grassland in dairy production moving forward? If you think about, and what provoked me is your statement about sometimes we got to go backwards, sometimes we got to do things we've done in the past. That's one of the criticisms I've heard of grazing and milk production, is that it's sort of the old ways, it's the way we used to do it.
Yep.
I'd be interested in your thoughts about what are the limitations or the impediments to getting more grassland out on the landscape?
So I think don't get me wrong, I think there's a place for a certain amount of grazing. I think there's certain farms, certain areas within the country, the state, that are suited better for grazing.
Yeah, sort of a response to the land.
Yeah. And then there's certain areas that are, to get the most out of it, you probably don't want to graze it.
And why is that?
Just because of the overall potential of the ground. We're much better off, I think, consolidating our heifers the way we're doing it, using the manure, taking the manure to the digester and collecting the methane out of the manure. I can't do that out on the pasture. Now they'll be releasing methane into the atmosphere just as much out there as they would in my barn. If I put them out on pasture, I have to bring them in at some point, so then I have to have a facility to grow them as well. So
wintertime?
Or in the mud seasons.
Yeah.
So I have to grow crops to feed them. So 6 months out of the year, I'm going to have to house them in this region. But I do think, like I said, some of these highly erodible fields that we're working with may be better served in grass than corn. In fact, I know they're better served in grass than corn. A lot of times in agriculture, that really bothers me is we victimize each other. We talk about, well, organic is bad, or conventional is bad, or grazing, the grazers are crazy.
Everybody's after everybody else.
Everybody's their own
kind of tribal.
Piece. Right. But I think we can learn. We'd be much better off if we talk to each other and learn from each other. Because if we can do that, there's bits and pieces I could take from the organic world that I could bring into my farm. And there's some bits and pieces from the grazing world that we could use on our farm. By God, they might even be able to take something from us, a conventional farm. So
well, that's a hopeful message that I think is a good one to end on.